Hi there. We should be live. So, hi there. How are you doing? Let me know if you're watching. How how's the volume? How are you doing this evening? And hi. Welcome to today's live stream. We're talking about Walt Nauta. Now, this is kind of it's politics, but it's about the people. That's what I'm interested in with this kind of thing. So put your hands up if you know who Walt Nauta is. Also, say hi in the chat. Let me know that I am not alone because it's a bit weird. Feels like you're talking to yourself. So, yeah, don't be afraid to say hi in the chat. I am hoping that the chat is going to work for me. Hold on. Let's just double check. How's everyone doing this evening? I hope you're all doing well. Sorry, I am just trying to work out if anyone is there and how much of a delay there is the other thing. Oh, what's pop-ups and things? So, okay. I don't think I have missed any chats. I can see you now, PC Tech. I'm sorry you're a bit tired, my love. What's got you so tired? Do I ask? Thank you very much for helping me check the chat. I never know. That was a bit warm. So yeah, Walt Nauta. If anyone doesn't know, he's a military veteran who was, I think, handpicked to be President Trump's body man. Now, the reason they're called body mans is purely because they follow the president's body wherever it goes. And they're usually men. In fact, I think they have all been men so far. Paperwork sucks. So yeah, I feel for you. I really do. Oh, Stream Elements is running. I'm really sorry, PC Tech. And I'm about to teach you stuff. So feel free to put me on mute if you've had enough. So yeah, so what's a body man? It's basically the official title is personal assistant to the president. And they cover a wide range of roles within the White House. They work in conjunction with the president's main secretary and their pool of secretaries, chief of staff, deputy chief of staff, often with the communications director and press secretary as well. And essentially, they help field stuff that really doesn't need to be on the president's plate. But also, they deal with the personal stuff. They make sure they're packed for the trip. They make sure that their creature comforts are with them when they're away. They often do the president's wake-up call, and they are in the room a lot of the time. They're expected to be there and ready to do something without actually being intrusive. They don't often get full security privileges, but they're around for an awful lot of stuff, and people forget they're there. And it is a huge privilege to serve that close to the President of the United States. Just a massive privilege. And for someone like Walt Nauta, who was a career military man, to be given the highest of honors to become the president's body man is that must have been just one of the highlights of his career, if not the highlight. And when President Trump left the White House, Walt Nauta went with him, which is not uncommon, and became his, personal aide to Donald Trump in his, I wouldn't call it retirement, but in the life after the White House. And regardless of your political affiliation, I'm sure most of us can really look at that job and kind of go, it's a pretty cool job. I mean, it's really hard. The hours are ridiculous and it's incredibly stressful, but that kind of job would be really cool. I bet Trump wishes this guy had security privileges. They would have an NDA, I assume. So there's it's kind of a standard NDA that most staff have to sign. Obviously, the higher up the food chain you are, the bigger the contract is, but it's the same as any kind of high power official job. So there are things that these people are allowed to see, and there are things that they're not allowed to see. And as we can now assume, allegedly, from the Trump, the tapes that are now coming out of Trump bragging and seemingly showing people highly classified information and then asking for some cokes to be brought in, given that part of a body man's job, part of Walt Nauta's job would be to make sure Trump was comfortable and his guests were comfortable and arrange things like food and drink and whatever else. So one would assume that at least since leaving the White House, there have been things that Mr. Nauta has been witness to that maybe he shouldn't have been. And he's now in a really difficult position. He's meant to have been arraigned twice now. The first time he went, but didn't have representation that could work in that Florida jurisdiction or work in the state of Florida. The second time, his flight was delayed. And it's now starting to feel a little bit like Mr. Nauta is being used to delay things because they're going on trial together. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is there's been a lot of questions over why. Why hasn't he taken a plea deal? Why hasn't he flipped? And it reminded me of The West Wing. It reminded me of Charlie Young, who is in The West Wing. He's President Bartlett's body man. And there's a lot of stuff that they're meant to keep secret, personal stuff about the president and their family and, private conversations that they're privy to because they're in the room, but they're inconspicuous, fights that the president and their wife or husband might have or whatever else. And it reminds me of this scene. I don't know. I don't want spoilers. I know the show is 20 plus years old now, but I don't want to give anyone any spoilers because it is an amazing show. And kind of the situation is somewhat similar. So President Bartlett lied during his campaign. It wasn't illegal, but it was underhanded. And it is slowly coming out in amongst the staff that that this has been the case. And President Bartlett and a few other people have been consulting with the White House counsel, and the White House counsel is basically saying, you know, you did everything far too right. You did everything that someone would do if they were perpetrating a fraud. And Charlie works out that actually they didn't. And I'm going to show you the clip of Charlie talking to President Bartlett after it comes out that Charlie is known for some time and kept it secret without having to be told to. Let me just get to a couple of comments. Now, I don't know about drug allegations. I know there's been some allegations about people within Trump's circle. But yeah, I mean, the personal aide to the president does run errands for and arranges errands. So if there is anything nefarious, then maybe he does know. See, I mean, I agree with you. I think eventually one of two things is going to happen. He's going to run out the clock on his own life, because, you know, he doesn't have the healthiest of lifestyles. He doesn't look after himself particularly well. And he's, you know, 77. Or he may well be going to prison. I think it's one or the other. Certainly from the evidence that's coming out, and obviously there's more evidence, and we don't know what Trump's defense is going to be, although at the moment it seems to be, you know, I was bragging, which I think is a last-ditch kind of PR relations thing. But yeah, I'm going to show you this clip of Charlie Young and the president. The reason I'm showing you this clip is it's the complete opposite of what seems to be happening with Trump, with the fact that everyone around him goes to prison or pleads guilty or cuts a deal. And I wanted to show you this as, you know, this is what we hope we would get from a president. So I'm gonna, nope, not that one. That one. And okay.
Sit down. Don't be scared. My youngest daughter's got a big mouth.
No, she doesn't, sir. She wanted me to be on the lookout for certain physical signs so I could tell the First Lady.
We won't discuss this anymore for the time being. It'll be public soon enough. And the more conversations you have with me, the more lawyers you're going to have to talk to. And they bill it an hour what you take home in a week, so we won't discuss it except to say this. You're going to be subpoenaed. I'm confident in your loyalty to me. I'm confident in your love for me. If you lie to protect me, if you lie just once, if you lie just a little, if you lie because you can't stand what's happening to me and the people making it happen, if you ever lie, you're finished with me. You understand?
Yes, sir.
Say you understand.
I understand, sir.
Go back to work.
Yes, sir. Is there anything you need?
I need you to go to law school and graduate as soon as humanly possible.
Yes, sir.
So for me, I mean, I get goosebumps all the way through the West Wing. I highly recommend it. It is an amazing show that is amazingly well written, acted, and played. And this is what we hope from our world leaders, right? You know, we hope that we are going to get someone as honest as that, who doesn't want to take anyone else down with them. And that scene has been playing over and over and over in my head when it comes to Walt Nauta and his situation, because I can guarantee that conversation, that kind of conversation, never happened. You know, I imagine Walt Nauta being as loyal and as willing to keep personal stuff confidential, and you know, serve to the best of his ability. And I really do think that most people in that role would be like Charlie. But how many presidents can you actually see being like Jed Bartlett there and saying, don't lie for me, don't cover, don't hold anything back? And I, you know, I think, as we've seen, you know, Trump is willing to throw other people under the bus. So why would Walt Nauta be that loyal? Why would he put himself in a position of going to jail for this guy? Is it really loyalty? Is it really as simple as that? Because it's loyalty to a person, not to the idea of what the United States should be. This the great experiment. So what is it about that situation? Is it because he was trusted with this role? Is it his life of service and obedience that has got him to this point where he's willing to go to prison? Is it because he believes in the conspiracy and Trumpism, this what has become a cult right in the core of it? You know, the personality that is Trump, has he become so entrenched in that because he's been living in it for 6-7 years, that he can't see anything out of that? Or is it because, you know, Trump has said to him, like he did with Michael Cohen, you know, I'll look out after you, I'll pay your legal bills, I'll make sure that you're okay. And he thinks that there's a reciprocal arrangement going on. I keep your secrets, you keep me safe. So let's sorry, went silent while I was reading there because I can't do two things at once. Trump passes the buck. He blames everyone else. He doesn't take responsibility for his actions and never will. I don't think he'd blame his upbringing as part of his defense. I really don't. I think he's going to carry on down there. You know, I was president, I can have whatever I want. The election was stolen. Cyclical arguments. You know, in the tapes, he is admitting that he's not president because he can't declassify things. But he's also saying he is president because the election was stolen. So, you know, it's a tricky one. And yes, you know, politicians do lie. And we get it over here, right? We get politicians that lie because of the lobbyists, because of who they align themselves with, because of who their friends are. You look at, over here, the amount of PPE contracts, COVID contracts that went to mates of politicians, because there were kickbacks or there were promises of shareholder positions or board positions once they got to retirement. you know, I don't know that, there isn't a lot of difference with this kind of thing through most countries. I am not saying that our country is better, because it's really not. But, how does someone get themselves in a position where, they know that they're secretly moving boxes to avoid prosecutors and search warrants and Trump's own legal team? How do you get so bogged down? And again, I'm going back to Michael Cohen, because he was right in the thick of it, and he said himself it wasn't until he was in prison, that door shutting, that he realized that no one was going to sweep in and save him, that Trump didn't have his back, that Trump had shoved him under the bus and moved on. And no matter who it is, no one takes the warning. You look at John Eastman and a bunch of other people, Rudy Giuliani, they all end up underneath the bus, and Trump keeps going for a little bit longer. So, there's another clip that I want to, whoops, wrong tab, that I want to show you. But I have to.
You're home.
Not that one. This one. Oh, maybe it was that one. Hold on. No, I will get this tech stuff. Was that the one I wanted? Yeah, so a little bit later down the line, having been subpoenaed and all of this legal stuff is going on, Charlie has been offered immunity for a truthful testimony. And everyone all day has been saying to him, take the deal. And he's like, I can't talk about it. I can't talk about it. The end of the evening, the chap on the left there is Leo, which is Jed Bartlett's chief of staff. And I'd like you to watch this, because I think this explains where Walt Nauta is at.
You're home. You, get in here. Take the immunity.
I'm not allowed.
Take it.
Is anyone else taking it?
No one else is being offered it.
Would they take it if they were?
Charlie, who the hell knows what's going to happen with this prosecution? It's a partisan prosecution. You could go broke. You could be barred from law school.
Doesn't immunity imply guilt?
Not necessarily.
And if someone in my position took a deal to protect himself, what would that person be saying to his employer? That they were wrong to trust him?
Don't be a hero.
Why not? I'll stay with my team. People should stop trying to get me not to do that. Leo. Anyway, I'm not supposed to talk about it.
Okay.
Nancy?
Thanks.
I think that's part of where we're at with this. I think Walt Nauta has worked for Donald Trump and knows all of these people and is, you know, his loyalty and his service come first. And Trump, I think, has taken advantage of that the way he has with other people. This is, you know, typical Trump. His ego, his narcissism has put a lot of people in danger and he doesn't care, but the people around him do. They take their job really seriously. They take their loyalty very seriously, especially or more so for Walt Nauta, who was a military veteran, who very much took his service seriously all the way through. He would never have got a job like that and stayed with Trump if there wasn't a loyalty there. But Trump isn't owed loyalty. He's used the office of the presidency to demand loyalty. And none of us are owed that. It doesn't matter who you are or how rich you are or how powerful you are not owed loyalty, which Putin is learning pretty hard right now. When you think about it, Putin is a great example of someone who has demanded loyalty, demanded respect, and not earned it. He's not done anything for his army or his people to earn it. But it's been brainwashed into everyone through the propaganda and, you know, the consistent messaging. And individuals can do this as well as, you know, dictators. You know, anyone can enforce that when they have the might of the office behind them. And we see this with abusive people. We see this in abusive relationships all of the time. This demand for respect, this demand for authority, this demand for loyalty, and any perceived slight, and you're turned against. I'm sure we've all had that in our lives, whether it's a friend or family member or parent or abusive ex, but we've also seen it. And the reason I talk about Trump so much, other than the fact that it's terrifying to anyone who follows politics and social behavior, especially those of us who are in countries that are allied with the United States. It is terrifying. The idea of a Trump presidency or someone like Trump being back in power is terrifying. But you look at the relationships around you, you know, have you ever known anyone who has demanded loyalty, asked you to choose sides? And if you choose wrong or you refuse to choose, have they turned on you? Because that's what Trump does. Trump is a really good example of all of these really toxic character traits rolled into one person. When you think about it, he is every bad friend, every bad ex, because of the way he treats people. If you were disloyal, you know, look at what he's saying about anyone who speaks out against him right now. Kevin McCarthy had to go groveling to him and get on as many other interviews as possible the other day because he dared to say He didn't know if Trump was the strongest candidate for the Republican Party. And, you know, people are terrified of the guy and the way he uses the media for his spin machine. Yeah, absolutely, PC Tech. So, you know, I think there has to be a level of ego, narcissism, you know, psychopathy to want to be in these high-powered governmental positions or to be a CEO or whatever else. And again, I'm going to say not all psychopaths are serial killers and not all serial killers are psychopaths. What we're talking about is clinical psychopathy. And, you know, there's a lot of very famous sports people that are borderline, if not edging into psychopathy. And it doesn't make them a bad person. It means that they can be competitive without really caring. And that gives them an edge. And that's the same with CEOs and politicians. You need someone who is able to take the personal and the emotion out of the situation to be able to make hard decisions. And yeah, you know, Trump did psych up the crowd. You know, my opinion and the opinion of a lot of people is he psyched up the crowd and unleashed them on the Capitol. And that's something that is almost unheard of in most countries, or certainly, you know, hasn't been heard of for a very long time. I should also say that not all CEOs are psychopaths or serial killers for that matter. I think you're safe. You're fine. Putin's demise will come from within. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And this is the other thing, is there is only so long that this behavior can go on for, right? There is only so long that it works. And it's the same as yep, you're safe. And I promise you, you know, Scouts Honor, we'll let you know if we see signs. Yeah, with any dictator, with any tyrannical government, with any narcissist, any relationship with someone like that on any level, eventually the blinkers go. You know, like horse blinkers, all you can see is what's in front of you, and eventually they slip and suddenly you can see the outside world, and you've suddenly got all of this context that rushes towards you. And once that drops, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to blissful ignorance, and that is what's happening. There is a hardcore base and some people that are pretty culty around Trump that are still hardcore, and they will be for a long time. But there are also people who are shifting their support very quietly. You know, he no longer has the momentum he had 2 years ago. And people are waking up to it. They're also waking up to the fact that you can have those policies if that's what you want, but there are other people who are maybe better for the general day-to-day running of the country. That doesn't mean that the other people haven't bought into Trump's way of doing things, where it's a witch hunt and it's, you know, just a conspiracy. George Santos and his, you know, his indictment stood outside and went, "It's a witch hunt. It's a witch hunt." Dude, no, it's not. So, you know, I think Trumpism, the way of doing things, is going to be around for a while. That influence is absolutely there, but people do wake up to it. And I've had this in my own life with, you know, abusive ex and abusive situations. Once you get to that epiphany moment, that's it. And you do look back and go, how did I believe that person? How did I ever get myself into that bad of a situation? But, you know, for Walt Nauta, he sees Trump all day, every day. And if all you are being fed is what Trump wants you to eat, you know, and I think there's, I think maybe his loyalty to his service has been taken advantage of and leveraged into kind of Nauta almost worshipping this guy and being willing to go to prison, throw away all of that amazing service and his time in the military and his time of good service for this one person. You know, and there is an awful lot of that, you know, and it makes me wonder whether Walt has drunk the Kool-Aid a little bit when it comes to, you know, Trump being compared to Jesus. And I hate saying it. I really do hate saying it. It makes me cringe. Really, horrible. Yeah, it is. It is really, really worrying. And of course, I think we have a different reaction to it over here and in Europe because we were more involved in World War II. And it's still in a lot of living memory here. And in Germany, you know, a lot of Germans and Austrians and other people, when they talk about Trump, it is in terms of their history. We all learned a lesson here that has been forgotten in America because it was an away game for them. Other than Pearl Harbor, they got involved because of Pearl Harbor, but you know, they were fighting over here and in Europe. Most of America were over there and it was fine. You know, they weren't bombed to oblivion and they didn't lose homes and that kind of thing. And I think, you know, we learn a harsher lesson. And of course, we're looking at what is happening in Ukraine, what the Wagner Group and Putin have been willing to do in Ukraine. And that historical context is right next door for us. I cannot imagine what it's like for Ukrainian people right now or anyone else close to it who is worrying if they're going to be next. But, you know, that gives us that stark reminder of what happens when a leader is, or when a population is brainwashed into adoring a leader. You know, I'm old enough to remember Tiananmen Square. I was living close enough to it at the time for us to have go bags ready. You know, when people rise up against a dictator, a fascist dictator like that, and it, you know, that kind of person cannot stand having people stand up to them. It is the most frightening thing in the world to them. And, you know, as in Tiananmen Square, it was brutal. It was swift and brutal. Let's have a look at this one. Oh, sorry. Giuliani went from the mayor that led New York through the darkest period. Yeah, he was known as America's mayor. He was absolutely lauded for his response to 9/11. So that is a tricky question. And I think it's a little bit of both. From all accounts, he's been going downhill for a very long time. I think for me, he went from being known as the mayor of New York to being a national or international hero for his response to 9/11. It's like a teenager getting into the Premier League and being given, hundreds of millions of pounds in salary. They don't know what to do with that fame. They don't know what to do with all that money. And if someone doesn't tell them how they're meant to deal with it, if they don't have the right people around them, they go off the rails. And I think he was already probably getting away with some stuff behind closed doors. Whether I get the impression that it was booze and women behind closed doors, and yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was a really well-respected attorney. He was a really, really well-respected attorney. He was a well-respected politician. He had it all. And I think, it was going to his head a little bit behind closed doors. Maybe we didn't know as much about that as we do now. With this new lawsuit against him, everyone is focused on him selling pardons, and not so much about the other allegations, which are absolutely horrific if true. And she apparently has a lot of evidence. She's brought the receipts and then some. But it from her lawsuit, it does sound like he's been getting away with this for a long time. And of course, getting involved in Trump world, where Trump has been getting away with this stuff for years, the business dealings and everything else that's catching up with him. He was born into a family that just made things go away with money, or ignored it until someone else ran out of money. And Giuliani has been wrapped up in that. At a time when he's dealing with alcoholism and, his own scandals, his own divorce where he needs money and he's hiding money from his estranged, if not ex-wife. I think, absolute power corrupts, absolutely. But I also think that you have to be on your way there in the first place. You look at some of the other presidents or some of the other, world leaders that we've had. You've got Jacinda Ardern, the female PM in New Zealand, who is just so down to earth. And when the pandemic hit, she and her ministers were the first people to say, yeah, we'll take a pay cut. We'll put some money back in the coffers so that other people can, have the benefit of COVID funds. So, you look at her or someone like Barack Obama, who I think is, Biden has done an amazing job. He's got more done than Barack Obama has, but Barack Obama was a really nice guy. Like, you could imagine having a glass of lemonade on his porch and enjoying a laugh. you know, he had a completely scandal-free administration. There was nothing on that guy. He went in there, did his job, and, you know, has retired. So, you know, I don't think the absolute power corrupts everyone, but I think you do have to be on your way there. I really do. Giuliani is talking to the DOJ. People are saying he will flip on Trump. Yeah, I think you're right. I think he will flip to save his own butt. I think he's one of very few that are, you know, that are that close to Trump that will flip. But what we're actually looking at is someone who used to be you know, America's mayor, someone who used to be a very good prosecutor, very good lawyer. The fact that he got involved in crack pottery, but that was purely for his mate Trump, you know. So yeah, I think he's going to flip. You know, I think Mark Meadows has flipped. You know, people who are a little bit more savvy are going to flip. Also, people who have their own counsel. You notice that the people that flip are the people that have independent counsel that is not paid for by Trump and the super PAC. You know, Walt Nauta is trying to get a lawyer that the super PAC is willing to pay for. Not that I'm making any allegations. I'm just, you know, asking questions. That's how Fox got away with it, right? Yep, where our politicians kept their salaries. Yeah, our politicians not only kept their salaries, but voted to give themselves a salary increase in the middle of COVID. Yeah, you know, and then they, you know, after all of that, they voted every time it came up. So it's once a year that they debate whether they should have a pay rise. And pretty much every year they say yes to themselves. They deserve it. And after all of that, banging pots and clapping outside of your doors for the NHS on Thursday nights, there wasn't enough money for NHS staff to get a pay rise, but they could get 11 grand extra a year. You know, it's absolutely disgraceful. But there are politicians that are incredibly graceful and know exactly who put them there and who they're there for to work for. You look at Mari Black. There's also, I can never remember her name, but she's really lovely from Coventry, who she does Facebook videos and other things talking about who's trying to lobby her this week. And it's kind of, look at this gift basket that I've been sent. You know, how many MPs have been sent this and haven't declared it on their forms? But this is, you know, it's got to be £1,500 worth of gift basket, and it's from, you know, Heathrow Airport or someone like that who is looking for more support and more funding for stuff. So yeah, I mean, I agree. Any pay rises and stuff like that should be decided as part of a general election. I don't know anyone else who gets a pay rise every year. Here in the UK, anyway. But, you know, there's an awful lot of very old career politicians who have got used to being a little bit fudgy and a little bit slushy with how they do things. So, you know, and then you've got, you know, it happens over in America, Marjorie Taylor Greene saying that, you know, it's really hard to work for a salary as low as $175,000 or whatever it is a year. They only have to work 140 days a year. The rest of the time they're not in session, I think. So, I think, again, it comes down to the kind of personality that those kind of roles attract. You either have completely altruistic, I am doing this because I want to make our country, my district better. And then you've got other people that see it as a leg up. Lauren Boebert apparently, while they were setting up for an interview, asked how she got a sweet gig like the presenter. And it's kind of, these people see being a politician as a step to their own show. That's the goal, not serving the American people, or over here the English people, or British people in the UK. So it's really sad. And watching them take other people down with them, like Boris Johnson was willing to take other people down, either instead of him or with him. And I think that kind of personality can be really dangerous. Like in wartime, in wartime or times of recession, you need someone who is ruthless, who is going to make the ruthless decisions. Excuse me, because that's what is going to get you out of that dark period. But once that's over, they're then useless. You look at Churchill. Churchill was an amazing leader during World War II. Because again, he was a psychopath. He was able to make awful decisions that we would really struggle with in terms of the cost of human life. And he was able to make them. But he got ousted. Was it Harold something who came in, and then Churchill got voted in again after kind of, I think it was 5 years after he was ousted. The next general election, he ran again. And by that point, people had forgotten how rubbish he was once the war ended. But remembered how great he was while the war was going on. So they voted him in again, and he was terrible. And he was ousted very, very quickly. There was a vote of no confidence. And people don't know that Churchill was actually prime minister twice. Because we tend to forget how terrible, we don't want to think of Churchill as a massive racist drunk who wasn't very good as a prime minister. But actually, sadly, it's true. It is true. Some people are built to make terrible decisions and win. And some people are built to lead during times of peace. Yeah, see, me too. That seems like monopoly money. Like that is, it's like 2/3 of the cost of my house. Maybe not quite that much, but it's like a year. And that's without their side hustles and other incomes. Marjorie Taylor Greene is, a millionaire in her own right. She has fitness brands and all of this other stuff going on. She charges a fortune for speaking at events, because they only work 140 days a year. It blows my tiny little mind, PC tech. Most American politicians are millionaires. and these people are telling poor people that they should work harder. The hypocrisy is absolutely lost on these people, and it's the same here with politicians. It is absolutely the same here. They don't understand that what they're saying makes absolutely no sense. But there you go. Absolutely no sense. I honestly, I do a load of research into the people I talk about, and sometimes I'm sat here going, I don't understand. I don't understand. How do people not wake up to this stuff? And I know the reason, because I've been there. They are in a toxic relationship with their politician, with their congressman, their senator, their president. They are in a toxic relationship with these people. They are being gaslit. They will believe anything. There was a woman who was she was interviewed by, I think it was Jordan Klepper interviewed her, and she said she didn't believe that Trump would do all of these awful things, and there's no evidence, and it's a deep state conspiracy and everything else. And I think it was Jordan Klepper said to her, but he's on tape admitting this. He's admitted on TV and in interviews and everything else that he has stolen these documents, that he didn't want to give them back. He's admitted all of this. And so what? They were his. They've got no rights to it. Okay. And, I don't believe that he assaulted E. Jean Carroll or, all of these other things. And no matter what evidence was put in front of her, and it got to a point where she just looked at him and went, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care what he admits. I don't care what he says. I don't care what evidence there is. I don't care. It's kind of, okay, well, at least we've got to the root of it. This isn't about you being shown evidence. This is the fact that you don't want to be shown evidence. You believe what you believe. That's it. And those people are people you cannot have a conversation with. The people that are willing to debate and discuss, you can have a conversation with. But people who don't care what evidence there is, and are just saying it's conspiracy, or just saying that it's a distraction from Hunter Biden or Partygate or whatever it might be, they actually don't care. They are for their guy and against any other person, Here is something mind-blowing. School is 9 to 5 with lunch, 12 to 1. Work life after school is 9 to 5. Same things, but once people break that cycle, they become more creative. Yeah. I mean, we've looking at all of the studies about the 4-day work week. Companies get the same, if not more, productivity out of their employees, and their employees are happier, less likely to move jobs, and more likely to be long-term employees. And it was the same during COVID. People said, I don't think I'm working as much as I should be, but actually they were more productive in the time that they were working. Now, obviously, there are exceptions to this. There are people that don't thrive working for themselves or working from home. You've got to have a lot of discipline to get your butt to your desk and do the job. And some people don't cope with that. Some people need a routine of getting up and leaving the house. whether they work for themselves or they work for a company, they need to leave the house to be productive. But actually, for me, I'm way more productive working from home. I love managing my own time and everything else. Why I'm self-employed. And politicians hate people that break the cycle because it means they can't lie to me. Yeah. I mean, the 5-day work week is a social construct. It's we used to work 7 days until the suffragettes and the women's right movement. It was actually feminism that gave you the weekends. We're showing our age now, PC Tech. I was explaining this to some American friends of mine, that we used to have shops were closed for 3 days over Christmas. It was at least Christmas Day and Boxing Day, if not a half day on Christmas Eve. And then with bank holidays, if Christmas fell over a weekend. And yeah, no shops were open on a Sunday. No shops were open on a Sunday. Very rarely, very occasionally, you would get a little corner shop that might be open. But even petrol stations, gas stations were closed on Sundays. So you'd have to fill up on a Saturday if you wanted to go for a Sunday drive. Yeah, corner shops. Yeah. Yeah, like supermarkets were always closed on Christmas Eve. You know, so the 5-day work week became a thing when women's rights happened. Kind of part of that influx of workers, female workers and everything else, they were able to essentially rotate staff. But that's how we got parental leave and maternity leave, paternity leave, and all of those things. So working 5 days is a social construct. It was kind of, okay, well, we've got to give people 2 days off a week. And actually, a lot of companies have found other ways around that. But, 5, who chose 5? It could have been 4 back then. Could have been 6. Either way would have made no difference to productivity. If you work a 6-day week, you're less productive as a 5-day week or a 4-day week. Hampers ordered by the middle of the year. Yeah. Got to order my Christmas meat by September. Yeah. God, you were posh having a Christmas hamper. We didn't have that. We did order our meat by September, though. My mum and dad used to go absolutely overboard at Christmas. Even as a kid, I'd look at the Christmas table and go, I feel sick. I feel sick just looking at it. 3 or 4 different types of meat and 27 different types of veg, and it was way too much food. And food was cheaper back then in the 1800s when green sleeves was number 1, and you and I were young there, PC Tech. The reason I use that is years and years ago, I was kind of saying when I was a kid and my other half just kind of bust in with a quick one-liner of what back in the 1800s when green sleeves was number 1. And it stuck. He cringes every time I say it now. He cringes every time I say it. But no, I'm gonna own it. I'm gonna lean into it. Yes, I'm old. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. But yeah, I was explaining it to friends because my friends put ice in my drink, and it has melted really, really quickly. And now I've got a wet desk. I've got a really, really wet desk. To anyone who is watching now or on the replay, I can honestly tell you, no matter how old you get, you don't get your stuff together, and it's fine. It is absolutely fine. You don't have to have your stuff together. Just be willing to know that you've still got stuff to learn, and that you're a work in progress, and we are here to answer your questions. What were we saying? Yeah, I was explaining it to friends because like the idea, because we still have Sunday trading hours here. If you're a shop of over a certain size, you have to stick to Sunday trading hours, which is 6 hours, 10 till 4 usually. So yeah, and it's just not something that they have in the US at all. And Easter Sunday, if you're over 3,000 square feet, I think it is, you are not allowed, if you're a retail establishment and you're over 3,000 square feet, you cannot open on Easter Sunday. And it's just not a thing that they have in the US. So yeah, made me laugh. Me sat there explaining Sunday trading hours. It's not that interesting. Yeah, 10 till 4, 11 till 5. Yeah. And it means that 24-hour stores are closed at midnight on a Saturday. And they don't serve, like, you can't buy alcohol in supermarkets before a certain time. That may have been lifted. It's been a long time since I've bought any kind of alcohol, so I don't know. But I remember there being like ropes across the alcohol aisle. Oh man, 8 years working in a store. You, sir, get the salute, because it's rough work. It's really hard. It's really physical. And you get some nightmare customers who think that they are owed something. Like somehow they are more than you because you're working a really hard job. Believe me, when I see that happening in a supermarket, I say something. Very politely point out that they're an asshole. I put on my very best, very softest accent, and I speak to them very kindly, and then I drop the F-bomb. And they leave me and the staff member alone really quickly, because they don't know what to do with that. There's this woman with piercings who sounds like Joanna Lumley, and what do I do? I don't sound like Joanna Lumley. I wish I did. She's amazing. But again, it comes down to that sense of entitlement that we were talking about like an hour ago. Like some people feel that they're owed respect. They demand it in situations where they've not earned it. And actually, even if you work really hard, it's someone else's to give you. It's not yours to take. You are not owed anything. So if you are watching this and you're one of those people that goes into a store and gives people that are working really hard a rough time of it, don't be nice. As the 24 hours close at 12:01 midnight. Saturday reopen at 11 until 5, and then reopen at 12:01 midnight. Yeah, on Sunday. Yeah, It's rough because you don't feel like you've actually had any time off. You know, your sleep pattern is so off especially over the weekend, that even when those hours end up being completely set and you do leave at 12:01, you don't, because you've got to stack up and face up and all of the rest of it that needs to happen, so that it's ready to go Sunday morning. So actually, most of the time you're there until 1. By the time you've actually got out the door, even if you're not facing up, there's still a swap over, there's count ups. If you've been working on the till, there is always something that has gone wrong with the till that needs to be dealt with. I worked in retail. We didn't work those hours, but I don't think I ever left on time, even when I was on an early shift and I should have just been able to go. I don't think I ever left on time. It's not fun. It really isn't. And then on top of that, you got politicians kind of saying, well, if you don't want to be poor, don't be poor. Work harder. Well, like you do, Jacob Rees-Mogg, with your, millions and your wealthy family to fall back on. Tell you what, they wouldn't last 2 minutes working in a supermarket. They really wouldn't. Or any kind of retail job. So yeah, these people walk around and act like they're the authority when they're not, and they walk around, demanding a loyalty that they don't deserve. Politicians make me crazy, and yet I can't stop watching. Politics is my reality TV. Like, some people, really sit and binge watch. Oh, yeah. I was expecting this today or tomorrow. Breaking news. Trump facing new charges. Have they said how many? Because the reporting that I was seeing earlier was between 30 and 45. Basically wire fraud, and a bunch of other stuff, because he's been taking money out of campaign donations to go into a super PAC, which is actually paying his own legal fees and the legal fees of his associates. And he went from taking 1 cent per dollar that was donated to 10 cents per dollar. So it doesn't surprise me. Doesn't surprise me at all. Is that also being charged in Florida, or is that being charged in New York? Because it could be either. I'm guessing it depends on where his campaign finance offices are. But yes, I would imagine. Sorry, I'm just going to have a little bit of look at YouTube news. So we've got. Sorry, scratching my nose. Nope. Let's see if I can. Oh, it's 45 plus. Wow. I agree with your take on politicians. I absolutely agree that they should work a minimum wage job. Doesn't have to be retail supermarket, but it should be something that is hard labor for minimum wage. I absolutely agree. 45 New York and Florida. Yeah. So because I think his super PAC is in Florida and his campaign offices are in New York, or the other way around. So that would absolutely make sense. But yeah, 45 plus. Wow. His tally is over, I think, over 120 indictments now. And I really do think that there has to be a point where the Republicans back away from him, because there is no chance. They don't have a leg to stand on in saying that Biden is unfit for office when he's not been indicted on anything, when there isn't enough evidence to indict him. Now, I'm one of those people. If you've done something wrong, you should have your day in court. You should be arrested, charged, have your day in court. So political affiliation for me has nothing to do with it. If Joe Biden is as bent as a 9-bob note, then charge him. Indict him on something. Because the party is going to survive without him, right? And Republicans don't think that way. This is why people call it a cult. Because Republicans are jumping up and down, save Trump, save Trump. This is a deep state conspiracy, whereas I have not met a single Democrat who has a problem with Biden going to jail if he's done something wrong. You know? Seriously, phone a parent. You're in a cult. You know, if you think, if you would be fine with Barack Obama getting 120 indictments in 4 different cases so far, and there's still loads more to come, and Barack Obama then still running for office, fine, great. But if you don't want Barack Obama in the White House or Joe Biden in the White House when they've not been indicted for anything, but you're okay with Trump being there, you need to think it through. Right, so I'm gonna take this one first. Joe Biden has a stutter. Yes, he's elderly, but he worked for a very long time in speech therapy to overcome a debilitating stutter. So yes, he slurs, and he misspeaks, but that's the stutter. When he's talking one-on-one, he doesn't do it as much, and that is, again, it's about the stutter. So anyone with that kind of thing will tell you that it's easier to speak when you're around someone who gets it than when you're in a crowd. He has spoken about it. He spoke to a young lad who was being bullied for his stutter recently. And, you know, he was affectionate towards the kid, and he told him that you can work through this and you will find your path. And of course, Republicans said, look, he's a pedophile. You know, the thing is, I mean, it depends on where you're getting your news from, because when you're getting clips of it from certain news outlets, they deliberately kind of edit things to make it look worse. But if you watch the whole speech, it's nowhere near as bad. But I mean, I misspeak. I use the wrong word. Like I said this in my last live. I didn't realize how often my brain hiccups and I end up with the wrong word. So from instead of for is one that I've noticed happen a few times. It's not about being elderly or infirm. It's, you know, for me, it's just the stroke I had at birth. It's, you know, there's a misfire. And that's what happens when people stutter. So, you know, I'm not convinced. Yeah, I mean, he tripped over a sandbag recently. And you know, there was this big thing about oh, you know, look, he can't even walk. I fall over stuff all the time. I'm almost half his age. Just saying. Just I have a massive bruise on my arm. I got no idea where it came from, but I walked into something, fell over something, you know. Giuliani is potential witness for prosecution. This is going to be bad for Trump if that's true, because Giuliani knows where everything's buried. Yeah. And it doesn't surprise me that Giuliani has gone to them and gone, look, I've got the goods on this other thing. Can you forget that I was involved in the pardons, and I'll tell you everything about this thing over here. You know, I would definitely think, and they're both as slimy as each other. You know, Giuliani has become as slimy as Trump. You are the company you keep. It's really easy to be influenced by the people that are around you, right? Whether you mean to or not, we're all susceptible to it because we're social creatures. We want to fit in. We want to be part of a community. There are exceptions to those rules, but we want to be part of that community, and we evolve with our community to develop that cultural identity. You know, that doesn't have to be kind of national identity. It could be as small as your friendship group or your online group or your gaming group. We all want to fit in with the people that we like, that we feel comfortable with, or that have influence and power that maybe could help us. And, you know, Giuliani knows more than Trump thinks he does. Maybe Giuliani has played on the whole doddering idiot for a little while, or he's ramped up Trump's ego and kind of made him feel like he knows everything, because that's what Trump wants to be. He wants to be the big I am. So, you know, Giuliani has the goods, and we know he's been caught out with this stuff because he had an email address which was Helen something, which was his mum's name, that he was using for the nefarious stuff that was going on. And he's copped to that in depositions and stuff. So, you know, there's documentation there. Him then being a witness, I don't think he's as good a witness because of all of the scandal stuff and the fact that he's in the process of being sued for not paying wages and sexually extorting a former employee and everything else. But there's someone else, and I cannot remember. I want to say Weiss, but that might not be right, who would also corroborate all of this. And the rumor is that he's flipped as well. So that would bolster Giuliani. So, yeah. cracked all my ribs on the left side. It hurts like how I have done that. I broke 3 ribs coughing once, and it was a really small cough as well. I kind of held back because I was at a retirement due, so I was trying not to cough too loudly. I had a chest infection. I just kind of and because I held it in, my ribs cracked. So I feel you. How did you do that? Seriously, how did you do that? Because wow, you poor so and so. Please rest up. Yeah, I'm up to date on chat. Yeah, I mean, I think it's really easy to pick on Biden because he does come across like grandpa. Like Trump doesn't come across like grandpa, mainly because none of us would want him to be our grandpa. But like Joe Biden is your bumbly uncle, right? Really nice guy, super intelligent, but just bumbles. And it's really easy to pick up on those things, and kind of blame everything on his old age. But Trump has stumbled. He's climbed up a flight of stairs to Air Force One with loo roll stuck to his shoe. I should say toilet paper. Or, name me a president, please, that has not stumbled, fallen, had an issue, slurred, misspoke. Because I don't think there is one. And you look at our politicians. How many times do our politicians misspeak? Every day. So I'm not convinced that he's as bumbly as or he's as elderly as people make him seem. It benefits their narrative to call him old, but he's only 4 years older than Trump. Not that much in it. Also, Trump misspeaks all of the time. Who can forget Kafifi? He called Biden Bryden last week. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced. I think I like Biden's phrase. He says, "Don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative." And I like that. I shouldn't laugh. I don't know what I said that was funny. I'm often unintentionally funny. I think Biden's got a point. Who's got the actual record of getting the job done, and who is going to continue to get the job done? Oh yeah, Kafifi. Andy Serkis is hilarious. Him reading that as Gollum, yeah. But you see what I mean? Like no one who is saying that Biden is elderly and he's stumbling and he's slurring and he's doing all of these things is also pointing out Trump misspeaking or making up words or telling people to inject bleach. Like no one on the Republican side said anything about that, even after people did it and died. And again, that's another thing that makes me feel like this is a cult. If Trump says to inject bleach, people do. Don't ever do that. Don't do it. It's going to kill you. Don't do it. It is not safe. I don't care who tells you to. Don't do it. Don't. So, you know, no one in the Republican Party was saying that he misspoke, or, you know, was saying that it's because he was, what, 74, 75 at the time. No one was blaming age. And yet Biden stutters, and it's, oh, he's elderly, as if no one who's young can have a stutter or have the remnants of a stutter after years of speech therapy and working on it. You know, I don't know. I find it ableist and cultish, and it makes me very sad for humanity that, and this isn't a left or right thing, but some people have no compassion. Some people have no understanding of what it's like to have something that gets in your way like that. A speech impediment is really difficult day to day. It's stressful, it's distressing, and it is hard work to overcome. You know, and anyone who kind of intentionally uses that against Biden, I think, should take a long, hard look at themselves. You can dislike his politics. You can dislike him as a person. I don't think he's someone to be worshipped. Mind you, I don't think many people are someone to worship. But, you know, choose something you disagree with him on. Choose a debate to have with him. Yeah, sure. I'm all for that. But this is something that politicians have learned from Trump, right? That insulting someone is clever. You know, that giving them nicknames is a clever thing to do, when it's not. Destroy them with debate. Destroy them with facts. Kill them with kindness. That is the clever way of doing things. Anyone can insult someone. And honestly, you know, Stormy Horseface Daniels, it's not clever. Come up with something imaginative. Like, I don't have a problem with someone insulting me, but, you know, put some effort into it, put some thought into it, and find something that is really original and funny, or intellectual and funny. Don't go for someone's looks. It's boring. It's tired. Or reach back to historical insults, because they're the best, because it means someone has to go home and Google it. But calling someone a horse face, that's play school. That's, you know, my kid's 5 and she comes up with better insults. That's all I'm saying. Like, she comes home with stuff that I remember from when I was at school, and she comes home with stuff that, yeah, we never said that. She's got a little mime, and it spells out "Mummy knows nothing." I mean, she's not wrong, but she caught me with it. I wasn't smart enough to keep up with it. Let's see if there is any update from some trusted sources. Department of Justice have slammed DeSantis for something, so I'll have a look at that in a bit. Oops. Let's see if why have I got no breaking news? 3 other people have been charged to do with the insider trading at Trump super PAC. I got nothing. Sorry, I'm still looking. Yeah, I got nothing. Oh, yeah. No, you're not wrong. You are not wrong at all. New York Post. That's the second story they've had today that has gone after Trump. Now, they're a right-leaning. It's Murdoch owned. So you don't always expect them to... Yeah, see, there's some stuff on here that isn't entirely accurate. They've yeah, they've got some Republican edited talking points on here. So I'm sorry about the silence. There are many things that I can multitask with, but apparently computer stuff not so much. Right. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just seeing if I can find something on a right. So DeSantis is being slapped down by the DOJ for bringing in a law that is going to prevent Chinese, Venezuelan, and another nationality, hold on, from owning land in America. Sorry, I'm just... Cuba. So China, Venezuela, and Cuba from buying and owning property in America. So it comes into effect on the 1st of July, so tomorrow, just in time for the 4th of July, where, everyone celebrates their freedom from us tyrants over here. Victory sip. By being a tyrant. So it's basically anyone from a communist country. But the thing is they may not be immigrants. I just it makes me so sad. Really does. This guy's parents or grandparents are from Italy. It's not like he's been there since the Mayflower. And he's going after as many immigrants as he can. He's latched onto this communist, socialist, Marxist, fascist stuff. And I'm not sure that you can be all of those things. So yeah. As much as I don't like Chris Christie, he is the most sane of, like, at least you can debate the guy. No one else you can debate. Trump in a debate is just fake news and they stole the election and they were my documents. DeSantis just says the word woke until you want to rip out your own eyeballs and stuff them in your ears so you don't hear it anymore. Nikki Haley, Rick Scott, Tim Scott, and the others are just bland. They're not really with Trump, but they don't want to say it out loud because Trump is still powerful. They've got nothing. They got nothing. At least with Chris Christie, he's got an idea of what he wants to do. I don't agree with him on a lot of things, but like he's the kind of guy that you go, look, I don't agree with you, but we both kind of want the same end goal. We just disagree on how to get there. We're on two different paths. And that's someone I can have a conversation with. But it says something when Chris Christie is the most sane of the lot of them. Don't know. Right. I have been rambling now for almost an hour about politics, and I promised myself that this wasn't going to be too political. It's about the people, not the politics. It's become about the politics. I mean, it is still about the people, you know, and the power that Trump has over people. And it's sad. It really is. It's Trump over country. It's this loyalty that has been demanded, and this position that not only he's put himself in, but other people have convinced others that he's in. Like there's this collective brainwashing going on. He says he's powerful, and some other people have gone, oh, he must be powerful because he's saying it. And then that's spread. People have seen how that second group of people are reacting to him, and, you know, it's spread. Hey, Joe Dingo. Do you feel better after your nap? How are you feeling, my friend? You know, and he's not powerful. If everyone turned around, and this is the same for any narcissist, any abuser, any bad actor, anyone who is trying to twist things, if all of you kind of go, yeah, I'm not going to listen to you anymore, that's it. Game over. They've got no power over anyone. So, you know, if you stop telling him he's powerful, he's not powerful anymore. He's like Rumpelstiltskin. The original one. The Grimm Fairy Tales one, where he rips himself in half. Trump, the best and worst TikTok influencer. Yeah, this is just it. You know, he convinces people that he is powerful because he says it often enough. Now, you know, my abusive relationship, I was told I was fat every day. Now, at the time, I varied between a size 8 and a size 10. I was not a big girl. That's UK size 8, size 10. But I was told that I wasn't good looking anymore because I had put on weight. I was too jiggly. I was this, I was that. You're told that every day. You start to believe it because it is constantly drip, drip, drip. So, and that has what has happened to Trump, because he hyped himself up. Other people started to believe him. So he believed his own hype because it was being echoed back at him. And that has spread out. And it is now rippling back in, and people are walking away from him. But if everyone just kind of went, you're not powerful, you're not anything special, thank you for your service, we're done now, and everyone just walked away from him, he would have absolutely no power over these people unless there is some extra nefarious stuff. Trumpelstiltskin. Oh, that is amazing. That is my now my new thing. I again, I'm going to give you a salute, Mr. Dingo. Because yeah, that's both of you that have had a sleep from me today. That is amazing. I'm going to put that up on screen. There we go. You know, unless there is actually some major dirt or some major money involved here behind the scenes that we don't know about yet, it's got no hold on you. He's irrelevant. He is irrelevant, and he is holding the Republicans back. And you've got to walk away from it. Otherwise, you are never going to win an election again. See, I'm just going to swap the Trumpelstiltskin for a moment. See, this is kind of what Trump is doing, right? He's grumbling about you know, he's expecting loyalty and you're not showing it. He's expecting, you know, something something that, he feels he's owed. He believes that the office entitles him to undying devotion and loyalty, and it doesn't. Now, I might be a Brit, but I have nothing but respect for the office of the president. I don't have respect for that president, because he didn't respect the office of the president. And he demands respect and loyalty and this fealty, this blood oath that he doesn't deserve. You can't demand that kind of thing, because it's not yours to have, it's someone else's to give. You can earn respect all you want, but you've got to hold that. You've got to earn it and keep it there, and that's just not something he's capable of. It is someone else's to give you. You can't force someone to respect you or whatever else. I'm going to put it back up. I'm not sorry. Yeah, and again, I think you are absolutely right that I think the division was somewhat there. He just made it okay to say it. Just the same as that there has been a rise in racist attacks against Asian Americans and Jewish people. The anti-Semitism is real. It's become okay over there to say Nazi slogans. You look at Mums for Liberty or whoever they are, who had on the front page of their newsletter a quote from Hitler and gave him credit for it. It's become okay to say that kind of stuff. There was a guy at a Republican convention of some description that was talking about Mao and Stalin and and Hitler as these people knew what they were talking about, and you just he's made it okay for that to be said, and if people object, then it's, oh, you're infringing my freedom of speech. You are free to say whatever you want. You are not free from the consequences of what you say. Like, I'm not sure. I think part of the issue with Trump is it made it okay for the Lauren Boeberts and Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greens to and George Santos to make their way into politics. He made it okay to be a narcissist. He made it okay to have no empathy and no compassion for anything other than your own causes, because these are people that aren't representing their constituents, they're representing their own agenda. And he gave people permission because that's what he was doing. Right. So we spoke about this earlier because this is a really valid point, and I think it's really great that this is coming from an American brother of ours, because we were talking about the fact that because we're close to, we are part of Europe, but we're close to Europe, we're close to the Ukraine war. We grew up with grandparents who fought, or my nan was a nurse during World War II. We're closer to it, right? We're closer to that, and we teach it differently. We teach World War II differently. In Germany, they don't hold back. They tell it how it actually was. Students who are studying history here, when they get to kind of 15, 16, they can opt to go to Germany and go to Auschwitz. and walk through that gate that says work will set you free, and feel the weight of that place. It is something that we do talk about. It is something that we haven't forgot, because we were bombed to oblivion. We lived it. Whereas for you guys, it was an away game. Other than Pearl Harbor, there wasn't anything that really connected for the population. It wasn't like Vietnam, where you had TV images and people could see the horror of war. It was an away game. It was happening over there. So it really wasn't and isn't talked about. And of course, you've now got the book bans and other things, which means history isn't being taught. So you don't have the valuable lessons of just how bad it was. And even in the 80s, early 90s, I remember driving past the house with my dad and asking my dad what the spray paint on the front of the house meant. Someone had spray painted NF on someone's front door, and I said to my dad, what is that? What does NF stand for? And he said it's the National Front. And that was a racist organization here that were vandalizing the homes of Black and Asian people and forcing them out of their homes that they had bought. And I remember being utterly shocked and disgusted that kind of thing still happened. And my dad and I had a very honest and probably not age appropriate conversation about all of those things. And I think sometimes you need to be a little bit shocked. Sometimes you need to face the reality, but it's become mainstream to hear politicians and hangers on say that the Holocaust did not happen, like Roseanne this last week. Saying that 6 or 7 million Jews were not killed, but they need to be. Like, no, that is not okay. It is not normal. And it should never be forgotten that it was a genocide. It was a Holocaust, not just against Jewish people, but also Black people, gay people, gypsies. It was anyone who was other. And from my point of view over here, I'm looking at what's happening and it becoming normal to other people and normal to literally legislate against people that don't look like you. And it's horrifying. It is absolutely horrifying. And this. Yeah, German people do not hold back in educating in every part of your life so that it doesn't happen again. It is a national shame. A national shame. Sorry, when I say that, we shouldn't deny the Holocaust, Alex Jones says something like that. Like, pretty much, I think if Alex Jones was to watch this, he'd be screaming. He won't ever watch this. And if he does, wow. Let's have a look. Yeah, Trump won off of that unrest. But the thing is, I mean, for me, looking at it from, and it is easy for me to say it from here, but what's happening now with the indictments and everything else and the accountability is the most patriotic thing that could happen. You know, for centuries, it's been a staple in America. No one is above the law. You know, the country comes first. That, you know, even the president is fallible and we have checks and balances. And, you know, I've seen a few law tubers up until the Trump indictments kind of saying, you know, ours is the best legal system. It's not perfect, but it is better than anyone else's in the world. They've stopped saying that now. Who knew they would change their mind? But yeah, you know, and that unrest wasn't coming from a large number of people, but it was enough people for it to start gaining momentum. And again, this is what we see from dictators and other people, is they find that way in. They find that that kind of wedge issue that they can separate you from other people, and then you're part of our group. I'm gonna hold you and look after you because no one gets us, and it snowballs out. It really does. We were talking about this earlier, and I really do think he will. He's now, if there's 45 plus indictments today that have been brought down, then, you know, it's 120 something indictments plus Georgia and other places. And I think once one jury kind of gets over that hump of us versus them, and is in that room and is taking that oath to uphold the law and their part in it, I think, you know, there's certainly some compelling evidence. I really do. Dave has gone for some kaffife. But yeah, you know, and you think about, I was saying earlier that you've got two different types of people that follow him. You've got people that can debate, that are open to other ideas, other possibilities, to evidence. And we're seeing this with poll numbers now, because people are starting to quietly step away from him when it comes to the average voter. Sorry, got a little bit overexcited there talking about poll numbers. And then you've got the other group that genuinely, I mean, they'll say things like, oh, it's a witch hunt, and they'll parrot the talking points. But really, when you break through all of that, they don't care. He's their guy. That's it. They don't care what proof there is. They don't care if he did it or not. They don't care if he sold national secrets. Let's say it came out, and this is a hypothetical, I am not accusing anyone, but let's say it came out that he had sold national, you know, secrets to Iran or China. They wouldn't care. They wouldn't care because he's their guy, you know? And it's really sad. Wow. Right. I'm not going to put this on screen because unacceptable words. So so this kid, 20-year-old, mid to late 20s, that's not a kid. That is not a kid. White male who got off a sexual assault charge because he claimed affluence and that meant he didn't know right from wrong. I don't care how much money you've got, you can learn right from wrong. You can learn that in any number of places, at home, with your nanny. It doesn't have to be a parent, but a parent figure, a friend, a family member, your peers at school, your teachers, by working, by interacting with other people, by picking up a newspaper or watching the news. In your mid to late 20s, you have no excuse other than you didn't want to learn right from wrong. Unless you have been in solitary confinement that whole time, I just... See, that's not a valid excuse here unless you can back that up with some kind of psychological proof. That just wouldn't fly. That would not fly. Having said that, I'm sure someone is going to dig up some kind of story that makes me wrong. This is why I don't have faith in the justice system here. For every good thing that happens, there are 20 things that make me go, what, WTF? Yeah. And, I think every justice system is like that. There is no perfect justice. And there is not one size fits all. That kid, if he didn't know right from wrong, he needs time to learn that. He needs to be rehabilitated in order to learn what's right and wrong. He needs to go to jail. You certainly, in your mid to late 20s, lived through Me Too. That if you don't know right from wrong when you're assaulting someone and they're screaming no, or they're hitting you, or they are not responding in a enthusiastically consensual way, it makes me want to puke. I'm not going to lie. It makes me want to puke. Yeah, I mean, we've got someone here, Katie Price. She used to go by the name Jordan, and the amount of time she's had drunk driving charges and gone to court and just been given probation is ridiculous. If I did that, I'd go to jail for the first offense. This woman got off 3-4 times, or not got off, but got probation 3 or 4 times. You're like, no, she needs full on, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you, go to prison. And just for Dave, that was a really good example of why we can't judge people who slur their words. Right, okay, so it was before the Me Too movement, but still, there is enough evidence in films and TV. Have you never watched a TV show? That's what I want to know. If this guy had never watched a TV show, because every TV show has some kind of moral, has some kind of don't be a D-bag code in it. Not knowing right from wrong when you're in your mid to late 20s, I just honestly makes me want to puke. People like that, make me want to puke. If he didn't know right from wrong, I want to know what he said to that person that he attacked. Did he say anything? Did he ask them to keep quiet? Because that's knowing right from wrong. If you're asking someone not to tell people, you knew what you did was wrong. what a nightmarish world I am raising children in. Right? The more things change, the more they stay the same, right? It's okay. It's okay. My triggers are my problem. But we have to talk about stuff like this. We have to be honest about stuff like this, and do what we can to educate. I did a video. It was a really hard video to do, but it was answering the why of E.G. and Carol. There were a lot of people, and I'm not sure all of them were good faith questions, but there were a lot of people saying, why didn't she scream? Why didn't she hit him? Why didn't she, fight back? Why didn't she report it? Why did she close her eyes? And I did a video basically explaining why. And it was a really, really hard video to do. It hasn't been amazingly popular, but it is there. For anyone who wants to understand why in good faith, there it is, because it's something we should talk about in a compassionate way, but we should talk about it. We should definitely be able to share this stuff for people like this rich kid who don't know right from wrong. Google is your friend if you need to know. But the next generation coming up are going to turn to channels like this to understand and get more context. So, oh, excuse me, sorry. Oh, she was drunk. So obviously it was her fault. And he was too drunk to know whether he was doing right from wrong. Oh, I see. I don't suppose during the trial they asked her what she was wearing and if she had flirted with anyone that night. Thankfully, we don't get that as much here anymore. Which is one of the reasons why Joe Tacopina's line of questioning of E.G. and Carol was just so bad. It was bad anyway, but asking her all sorts of really inappropriate questions that have no place in a trial of that nature. Asking someone about their relationships with other people at the time and their subsequent relationships, or their relationships beforehand and the kind of activity that they enjoyed beforehand. None of your business, man. Yeah, that's part of the problem. I've started watching some of the trials that I think we can learn from. The whole point of my channel is to take kind of the social aspect of psychology. It kind of, we are social beings and we're informed by what happens around us. So using examples like Walt Nauta, like Trump, like, these big figures that a lot of people have heard from are really important. I will watch trials when I think we can learn from them, and I go in as a pretend juror. I start off with defendant is not guilty, and I listen to all of the evidence, and I make my mind up based on, oh, I think I break my desk? I may have done. I base my kind of opinion on the evidence, not who I think the person is or what's been in the news about them. Certainly how I went into the Murdoch trial, and I don't always get the verdict that I expected or I would give, but I think that's the only way to be. We have to try and check our bias at the door to be able to understand ourselves and other people. But yeah, I did a series of those types of videos because the information needs to be out there when someone is ready to learn it. And I think it's better coming from someone who's been there. It's better coming from someone who's lived through those kind of experiences where I can say, well, this is why I didn't report. You know, this is what I was faced with. Because it has to be honest. If it comes from someone who's very dry or a clinical expert or whatever else, it doesn't feel as legitimate. It doesn't feel as truthful. I don't know whether that makes sense. I am still trying to find news on so PC Tech said earlier that there were some new indictments. And I can't find I've got nothing coming up. Oh, hold on. No. I've got no breaking news coming up. May have to do an update on my E. Jean Carroll stuff because he's now he's countersuing E. Jean Carroll while appealing the decision. Take a deep breath. Oh, potential indictments coming. Yeah, that's been in. I've been seeing those kind of reports for a day or so. I was expecting them either today or early next week is my gut instinct. But yeah, I may need to do an update on the E. Jean Carroll thing because Trump is now countersuing her. It's frivolous, and Alina Haber should have her law license revoked. She should be disbarred for bringing it. She's another one that's going to end up in serious trouble because of her fealty, or rather the fact that she really likes the money that she's paid. Oh, Dingo Upstate. Is it an update on Trump or Stiltskin? Oh, no, you can't find the case you mentioned. Was this the guy, the swimmer that got off with probation or something because they blamed it all on her, but also because it would ruin his swimming career? And the judge went, oh yeah, no, I didn't think of that. Yeah, of course you can just go. Because he didn't deserve to have his swimming career ruined over one night or 5 minutes of drunken fun or whatever his dad said. Repugnant beast. Oh, you forgot about that one. Totally different case of affluent white kid getting away with. Yeah, I mean, there are lots and lots of cases where money gets you out of trouble. But again, that only works for so long. Eventually, it's going to catch up. And okay, with Donald Trump, it's taken into now. But, you know, I think we need to, as a species, get better at saying to people, your behavior is unacceptable on every level. Telling truth to power. You know, a president isn't a king. And to be honest with you, we'd still hold, like, if the British public had anything to do with it, we would be holding a lot more famous people to account. We'd quite happily hold politicians and politicians and royalty. I would have quite happily seen Prince Andrew get his day in court rather than and actually have to face the music than him settle. Because I think it's important. I think, you know, the higher up you are, the more of an example you have to be to other people. So, did you tell me about a dream case? Did you have a dream and think it was real? Because I've done that. No, I mean, the thing is with these cases is often, especially with the distance of time, it can get conflated with, you know, there can be 2 or 3 cases that kind of get conflated all together. So I don't begrudge you not having all of the facts. I don't expect you to come to this with, you know, records and documents, Dingo. I really don't. Right. On that note, I have been talking constantly, or not quite constantly, for 2 hours and 22 minutes. And I would quite like a fresh cup of coffee. So, thank you so much for being here. I would like to say a special thank you to PC Tech Radio. Go to his channel. His channel is at PC Tech Radio here on YouTube. Go and give him a like and a subscribe. He does some amazing stuff, and I will be talking to him very soon, I hope, about starting off my computer stuff, which reminds me, when you're free, I need to send you some pictures of, I found some fans, like PC Tower fans. I don't know the technical term. I'm old. So I will send you pictures, and if they're useful to you, PC Tech, let me know, and I will send them to you. And also go and spend some time over on A Pair of Dingoes here at on YouTube. Oh, excellent. Cool. Yeah. Lost Dingo 1 has started streaming. He's doing some animation and some playthrough stuff at Diablo 4, which I really enjoyed the other day, because Diablo is a happy place for me, and I can't wait to, a couple of dingoes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So hold on. I'm going to do this the smart way. Dingoes. I'm so tired. I've done really well, I think. 2.5 hours of just non-stop talking. Copy. So this is the channel that Lost Dingo One runs. It's a lot of fun. His wonderful wife, sorry, I'm searching in the wrong place. That doesn't help. Yeah, his amazing wife did all of the artwork on the channel, and I'm in love with that and a little bit with her. I'm not gonna lie. We had a lot of fun on the stream the other day. And I am looking forward to more playthroughs of things like Diablo and other stuff. Paste. And this is PC Tech Radio. Please, 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 please go and show him some love. Because he deserves it. He's lovely, and he's doing an amazing job with streaming PCs for ridiculous cheap, reusing and recycling old parts. Totally worth it. Yeah, but talking to yourself isn't quite the same as talking to a camera for 2.5 hours. I don't know why, because I talk to myself too. Sometimes you need an expert. Sometimes you need to ask an expert, and you are the best expert. So talking to yourself is fine. Anyway, on that note, before I lose it anymore, thank you so much for being here, you wonderful people. Hopefully next week we'll have a few more people. I'm going to keep things at this time, not this time, 8 o'clock UK time, for the next couple of Fridays, and see whether I pick up a little bit of steam. See if people can make it once they see that I'm regular. Otherwise, I might need to sugar it back a couple of hours, which would make it very late here by the time I'm finished. So I'm kind of messing around with that a little bit. If you're watching on the replay, thank you very much for being on the replay. Thank you for coming and visiting. If you haven't already, please like the video. It really helps my ego, makes me feel better. If you haven't already, please subscribe. If you've got value out of this, please subscribe. I don't normally get as political, but I think it was a well worth conversation today. I think we need to get it off our chest every now and again. If you have anything that you would like me to tackle from a human behavior, social psychology point of view, or from my lived experience, drop me a line, either leave a message in the comments or get in touch through my link tree, which is in the description. Thank you so much for being here, and I will speak to you next time.